The biker crew was riding home when they found a 7-year-old boy standing in the middle of the highway, desperately asking for help. His father was in trouble under a bridge, and the people who'd hurt him were coming back. The bikers had a choice: keep riding or break every rule to protect a stranger and his son. The desert highway stretched endlessly under the midnight sky, empty except for the rumble of 6 motorcycles cutting through the darkness. Ryder Thompson gripped his handlebars tighter, feeling the familiar vibration of his Harley beneath him. The cool October wind whipped against his leather jacket as the Iron Hawks rode in formation, returning home from a charity run in Phoenix. At 42, Ryder had seen enough road to know when something felt wrong. And tonight, something felt very wrong. Ryder up ahead. Ghost's voice crackled through the helmet radio. Ryder's eyes narrowed. In the beam of his headlight, a small figure emerged from the darkness. A child, no more than 7 years old, standing in the middle of the road, waving his arms frantically. "Brake! Brake!" Ryder shouted. 6 motorcycles screeched to a halt, tires smoking against the asphalt. The bike stopped just 15 feet from the boy, who stood frozen in the headlights like a terrified deer. His face was streaked with tears and dirt, his small Superman t-shirt torn at the shoulder. Ryder killed his engine and pulled off his helmet. The other bikers followed suit. Ghost, a tall black man with silver streaks in his beard. Diesel, built like a tank with tattooed arms. Maria, the only woman in the crew and tougher than most men. And 2 younger members, Colt and Bear. "Kid, what the hell are you doing out here?" Diesel barked, his voice rough but concerned. The boy's lips trembled. Then he broke into sobs that shook his entire body. Ryder approached slowly, hands visible, the way he'd learned to approach scared animals or scared children. Hey, it's okay. We're not going to hurt you. What's your name?" "Eli," the boy choked out between sobs. Please help Daddy." "Where's your daddy, Eli?" Maria asked gently, kneeling down to his level. "Under the bridge." Eli pointed frantically toward the overpass 50 yards behind him. "He's bleeding. They shot him. Please help him." Fresh tears poured down his cheeks. "I tried to stop the bleeding like Daddy taught me, but it won't stop." Ryder's stomach tightened. Every instinct screamed trap. Out here in the middle of nowhere, a crying kid, someone bleeding under a bridge, it had all the markings of an ambush. He'd seen bikers lured into worse. "Could be a setup," Ghost muttered, echoing Ryder's thoughts. His hand drifted toward the knife on his belt. "He's 7 years old," Maria snapped. "Look at him. That terror isn't fake." Ryder studied the boy's face. The absolute desperation in those wide brown eyes, the way his small hands shook uncontrollably, the dirt under his fingernails that looked like he'd been clawing at the ground. No, Maria was right. This was real. "Diesel, Colt, stay with the bikes. Weapons ready. Anyone comes at us, you hit the horn 3 times, Ryder turned to the others. "The rest of you with me. Stay sharp." They followed Eli as he ran toward the overpass, his small sneakers pounding against the pavement. Ryder's hand instinctively went to the Glock tucked in his jacket. Beside him, Ghost pulled out a flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness. Under the bridge, the smell hit them first: blood, sweat, and fear. Ghost's flashlight found him immediately. A man lay crumpled against the concrete support beam, one arm handcuffed to a metal drainage pipe. His white dress shirt was soaked crimson on the left side, and his face was pale as chalk. He couldn't have been older than 35, with dark hair matted with sweat and blood. But what made Ryder's blood run cold was the look in the man's eyes when he saw them. Not relief, but terror. "No," the man rasped, trying to shield Eli with his free arm despite his wounds. "Run, Eli. Run. Daddy, they're here to help." Eli sobbed, rushing to his father's side. "We're not here to hurt you," Ryder said, raising both hands. "Your boy stopped us. We're just trying to help." The man's eyes darted between them, calculating, desperate. You don't understand. They'll kill him. They'll kill my boy." Maria was already beside him, examining the wound. "Gunshot to the abdomen. He's lost a lot of blood." She looked up at Ryder. "He needs a hospital." "Now." "No hospitals," the man gasped, gripping Maria's wrist with surprising strength. "They have people everywhere. The moment I show up, we're both dead." "Who's they?" Ghost demanded. The man's eyes rolled back, and for a moment, Ryder thought they'd lost him. Then he forced them open again. Police. Corrupt. The whole department. His voice was fading. I have evidence. They tried to bury. Daddy. Eli's scream was piercing. Daddy, don't die? Please don't die. The man used his last conscious effort to focus on Ryder. Protect my son. Please. Don't let them take him. Then his head slumped forward. He's still breathing, Maria confirmed, fingers on his pulse. Barely. Ghost, get the medical kit from my bike. Move. Ghost sprinted back toward the motorcycles while Ryder examined the handcuffs. They were standard issue, police handcuffs. A chill ran down his spine. Ryder, Bear called out from the roadside. We got a problem. Ryder jogged up to see what Bear was looking at. In the distance, maybe 2 miles out, red and blue lights flashed against the dark sky. Multiple vehicles, and they were heading this direction. We got maybe 5 minutes before they're on us, Bear said grimly. Ryder looked back at the unconscious man and the terrified little boy clinging to him. Every logical part of his brain said to leave, to call 911, to let someone else handle this mess. The Iron Hawks didn't need this kind of trouble. They'd worked too hard to stay clean, to rebuild their reputation from the outlaw days. But then Eli looked up at him with those tear-filled eyes, and Ryder saw his own son's face. The son he'd lost to cancer 10 years ago, who'd looked at him the same way in the hospital, begging him to make it all better. Please, mister, Eli whispered. Please don't leave us. Ryder made his decision. Ghost. Bolt cutters. Get those cuffs off him. He pointed at Diesel and Colt. You two, get your bikes positioned to block the road. Bear, call Reaper at the warehouse. Tell him we're coming in hot and need the bay door open. He looked at Maria. Can you keep him alive long enough to move him? Maria was already wrapping the wound with strips torn from her shirt. I'll damn well try. What are you doing, Ryder? Ghost asked, running back with the bolt cutters and medical kit. This is insane. Ryder watched as those police lights grew closer, heard the faint wail of sirens carrying on the wind. He thought about the man's words. They have people everywhere, and the handcuffs, and the absolute terror that no innocent man should feel at the sight of police. We're doing what we do best, Ryder said, snapping the bolt cutters through the handcuff chain. We're protecting someone who can't protect themselves. He scooped up the unconscious man while Maria grabbed Eli. Let's ride, Iron Hawks, and pray we're not making the biggest mistake of our lives. As they roared away into the night with their unexpected cargo, none of them could have known that this moment would change everything. That the crying boy on the road would lead them into a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of law enforcement, or that their simple act of mercy would make them the most wanted people in Arizona. The game had begun, and there was no turning back now. The Iron Hawks warehouse sat on the edge of Tucson's industrial district, a forgotten relic from the 70s that the crew had bought cheap and converted into their headquarters. Ryder's bike screamed through the bay door that Reaper had left open, followed by the others in quick succession. Lock it down, Ryder ordered as Diesel and Bear jumped off their bikes to pull the massive door shut. They laid the unconscious man on a makeshift table in the center of the garage. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, he looked even worse. His skin had taken on a grayish pallor, and the makeshift bandages Maria had applied were already soaked through. Eli, honey, you need to step back and let us work, Maria said gently, but the boy clung to his father's hand like a lifeline. I can help. Daddy taught me first aid. Eli insisted, his voice cracking. Please, I need to help him. Ryder knelt beside the boy. You already helped him, kid. You saved his life by getting us. But now we need space to work, okay? How about you sit right there? He pointed to a nearby chair, where you can see everything we're doing. Eli hesitated, then nodded and moved to the chair, his eyes never leaving his father. Maria worked quickly, cutting away the blood-soaked shirt. Entry wound, left side. No exit wound, bullets still in there. He needs surgery, Ryder. Real surgery. We can't risk a hospital, Ghost said. You heard what he said. They've got people everywhere. Then he might die, Maria shot back. He'll definitely die if we take him to a hospital and they finish the job, Ryder countered. He looked at Reaper, a grizzled Vietnam vet who ran their garage. You still have Doc Martinez's number? Reaper nodded. The veterinarian? Yeah, but Ryder. He was a combat medic before he was a vet. Get him here. Now. Offer him whatever he wants. While Reaper made the call, Ghost began checking the man's pockets, laying out the contents on a nearby workbench. A broken cell phone, a water-damaged wallet, loose change, and a crumpled receipt from a gas station dated 3 days ago. Nothing here tells us who he is, Ghost muttered. Then his hand stopped at the man's boot. Wait, there's something. He pulled a leather bifold from inside the man's sock, a badge holder. When he opened it, everyone leaned in. The badge was tarnished and slightly bent, but unmistakable. Financial Crimes Investigator, Arizona Department of Revenue. But it was the ID card that made Ghost freeze. Holy hell, he whispered. Ryder, look at this. Ryder took the badge holder, studying the face in the ID photo. Cleaner, healthier, smiling, but definitely the same man bleeding out on their table. Daniel Ward, Financial Crimes Investigator. Why does that name sound familiar? Diesel asked. Ghost's face had gone pale. Because I know him. Or knew of him. Anyway, he ran a hand over his beard, his eyes distant. 3 years ago, before I joined the Hawks, I was doing security work for a law firm in Phoenix. Daniel Ward was all over the news. He was the investigator who uncovered a massive money laundering operation running through half the police departments in the state. Money laundering? Maria looked up from tending to Daniel's wound. How massive are we talking? Tens of millions, Ghost continued, his voice grim. Ward traced it back to a network of dirty cops who were protecting drug runners and taking cuts of their profits. He had evidence, witnesses, everything. The case was about to blow wide open. What happened? Ryder asked, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew. The case disappeared. Key evidence went missing. Witnesses recanted or vanished. And Ward, Ghost gestured at the unconscious man. Ward was accused of fabricating evidence and taking bribes. His career was destroyed. There were rumors he'd fled to Mexico to escape criminal charges. That was 3 years ago. I thought he was gone for good. Daddy didn't run. Eli's voice cut through the warehouse like a knife. Everyone turned to look at the boy, who had tears streaming down his face. They lied. They said Daddy was bad, but he was trying to stop the bad people. They took everything from us. Our house, our car, our friends. We've been hiding, moving around, sleeping in motels, his small fists clenched. And then yesterday, they found us. Ryder walked over and crouched in front of Eli. Who found you, buddy? The policeman. But not the good kind. The kind Daddy was trying to stop. Eli wiped his nose with his sleeve. They had guns. They put Daddy in handcuffs and put us in their car. They said they were taking us to jail, but they weren't. They drove to the desert instead. The warehouse had gone dead silent except for the hum of the fluorescent lights. What happened in the desert? Ghost asked softly. Eli's voice dropped to barely a whisper. They stopped the car under the bridge. One of them said, "This is where it ends." Ward, then they shot Daddy as Saab escaped him. They were going to shoot me too, but Daddy kicked one of them and yelled for me to run. So I ran. I hid in the rocks and watched them chain Daddy to the pipe. They said they'd come back after dark too. To finish it. Jesus Christ, Diesel breathed. Ryder felt rage burning in his chest, hot and fierce. These weren't just corrupt cops. They were executioners. And they were hunting a 7-year-old child. We need to call someone, Bear said. FBI, State Attorney General, somebody clean. There is nobody clean, Ghost said darkly. If this network is as deep as Ward was investigating, they've got people at every level. The moment we make a call, they'll know where we are. So what? We just hide him here? Colt asked. They'll track us down eventually. Ryder studied Daniel Ward's face. The face of a man who'd sacrificed everything to do the right thing, only to be branded a criminal. He thought about those corrupt cops returning to the bridge to kill a father and his son. He thought about Eli, who'd shown more courage in one night than most adults showed in a lifetime. We don't hide, Ryder said finally. We fight. Fight the police. Diesel looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Ryder, they'll bury us. They're not the police. They're murderers wearing badges. Ryder stood up, his decision made. The Iron Hawks started as outlaws, yeah. We've done things we're not proud of. But we rebuilt ourselves into something better. A brotherhood that protects the innocent. That's our code now. He looked at each member of his crew. Daniel Ward tried to expose corruption and they destroyed him for it. Now they want to kill him and his boy to cover their tracks. Well, I say hell no. We protect them. We keep them alive long enough to get the truth out. And we make sure these bastards face justice. This is going to make us enemies of some very dangerous people, Ghost warned. Ryder smiled grimly. Good. I'm tired of playing it safe anyway. At that moment, Daniel Ward's eyes fluttered open. His gaze swept the warehouse, confused and frightened, until they landed on Eli. Eli, he croaked. You're okay, Daddy. Eli rushed to his side. Daniel's eyes shifted to Ryder, and in them was a desperate question. You're safe here, Ryder told him. Both of you. And we're going to help you finish what you started. Daniel's lips moved, forming two words, thank you. Then consciousness left him again. Outside, somewhere in the darkness, sirens wailed in the distance. The hunt had begun. Doc Martinez arrived 40 minutes later, a stocky Mexican-American man in his 60s carrying a veterinary medical kit that looked like it had seen a war. He didn't ask questions, just got to work on Daniel Ward with practiced efficiency, muttering in Spanish as he extracted the bullet and stitched the wound. While the doc worked, the Iron Hawks gathered in the far corner of the warehouse, their voices low but tense. Eli had finally fallen asleep in a chair, exhausted from fear and adrenaline, clutching his father's jacket like a security blanket. We need to talk about this, Diesel said, crossing his massive arms. Really talk about it. What's there to talk about? Maria shot back. We're not handing them over to be killed. Nobody's saying we hand them over, Diesel replied. But keeping them here? Ryder, you know what kind of heat that's going to bring down on us. We've spent 5 years building our reputation back up. 5 years of running legitimate operations, doing charity work, proving we're not the criminals everyone thinks we are. He's got a point, Colt added nervously. The youngest member of the crew at 24, he'd only been with the Iron Hawks for 2 years. My parole officer already watches me like a hawk. If I get caught up in harboring a fugitive. Ward's not a fugitive, Ghost interrupted. He's a victim. The cops say he's a fugitive, Colt countered. And we all know how that looks. Biker gang hiding a wanted man. They'll crucify us. Reaper, who'd been silent until now, spoke up from where he leaned against his workbench. The kid's right to be worried. I've seen this before, back in the day. You go up against the system crushes you. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Ryder listened to them argue, understanding both sides. These men and women weren't just his crew, they were his family. He'd brought them together, given some of them a second chance when society had written them off. Now he was asking them to risk everything they'd built. What do you suggest, Diesel? Ryder asked calmly. Diesel shifted uncomfortably. We take them somewhere safe, not here. Anonymous motel out of state. Leave them with cash and a burner phone. Let them disappear while they figure out their next move. They'll be dead in a week, Ghost said flatly. You heard what Eli said. These cops have a network. They'll find them. Then we call the FBI, Bear suggested. Let the feds handle it. And who do you think answers that call? Ghost's voice rose. You think the FBI doesn't talk to local police? The moment Ward's location gets logged into any system, it's over. These corrupt cops have infiltrated everything. That's how money laundering networks work. They spread like cancer through every institution. Maria stepped forward. I don't care about the risk. That's a 7-year-old boy who watched his father get shot. I'm not abandoning him. Nobody wants to abandon him, Diesel insisted. But we have to be smart about this. The Iron Hawks can't take on an entire corrupt police department. We're 6 bikers and a mechanic, not an army. 7 bikers, Reaper corrected quietly. If we're doing this, count me in. Doing what exactly? Colt's voice cracked slightly. What's the endgame here? We hide them for how long? A week? A month? A year? Eventually, we run out of road. The warehouse fell silent except for Doc Martinez working on Daniel's wound. The question hung in the air like smoke. Ryder walked over to where Eli slept, studying the boy's tear-stained face. So small, so innocent. He thought about his own son, Michael, who'd fought so hard against leukemia. Michael had been 8 when he died, just a year older than Eli. Ryder remembered holding his hand in the hospital, promising him everything would be okay, even when he knew it wouldn't be. He'd failed to save his son. But maybe he could save this one. Ward was building a case, Ryder said, turning back to his crew. 3 years ago, He had evidence of a money laundering network. That evidence doesn't just disappear. It's somewhere. Ghost nodded slowly, catching on. If we can find that evidence and get it to the right people. There are no right people. Diesel exploded. That's what you're not getting. The system is rotten. Then we go around the system, Ryder said. We leak it to the press. Every news outlet we can find. Make it so public that they can't bury it again. You're dreaming, Reaper said, though his tone was gentle. The evidence is probably destroyed by now. Maybe, Ryder admitted. Or maybe Ward kept backup copies. Maybe he's been waiting 3 years for a chance to expose them. Either way, we won't know unless we protect him long enough to ask. Diesel shook his head. This is insane. We're talking about going to war with people who have badges, guns, and the entire legal system behind them. They tried to murder a child, Maria said coldly. Badges don't make them immune to justice. But they make them immune to us. Diesel's frustration boiled over. Ryder, I love you like a brother, but this is suicide. We can't win this fight. Then we lose, Ryder said simply. But we lose trying. That's what the Iron Hawks stand for now. We're not the gang we used to be. We're better than that. Better and dead are not the same thing, Colt muttered. A small voice cut through the argument. Please don't let them take Daddy back. Everyone turned. Eli stood by the makeshift operating table, his small frame shaking, fresh tears rolling down his cheeks. He must have woken up during their argument. Please, Eli begged, looking at each of them in turn. I know you don't know us. I know we're strangers. But Daddy's a good man. He was just trying to stop bad people from hurting others, his voice broke. If you make us leave, they'll find us. They'll kill Daddy. And then, he couldn't finish the sentence. Maria knelt down and pulled Eli into a hug. The boy collapsed against her, sobbing. Ryder looked at his crew, at Diesel's conflicted face, at Colt's fear, at Bear's uncertainty. Then he looked at Ghost and Reaper, who both nodded slightly. They were with him, whatever he decided. Finally, Ryder looked at Eli, crying in Maria's arms, and made his choice. We ride for him, Ryder announced, his voice carrying through the warehouse with absolute certainty. All of us. Anyone who wants out, I understand. No judgment, no hard feelings. But the Iron Hawks protect the innocent. That's our code. That's who we are. And if standing by that code means going up against corrupt cops, then that's what we do. He paused, meeting each person's eyes. This stops now. These bastards don't get to murder people and call it justice. We're going to protect Daniel Ward and his son. We're going to find that evidence. And we're going to make sure the whole world knows the truth. Silence filled the warehouse. Then Ghost stepped forward, standing beside Ryder. I'm in. Maria gently released Eli and stood. Me too. Reaper pushed off from his workbench. Somebody's got to keep you idiots alive. Bear sighed heavily, then grinned. Hell, I'm too pretty for prison anyway. Might as well go out in style. All eyes turned to Diesel and Colt. Diesel stared at Ryder for a long moment, jaw clenched. Then he shook his head, not in refusal, but in resignation. You're going to get us all killed. You know that. Probably, Ryder admitted. Fine, Diesel extended his hand. But when we're in prison, you're doing my laundry. Ryder clasped his hand, relief flooding through him. Only Colt remained uncertain, looking at the floor. Colt, Ryder said gently. If you need to walk, walk. I mean it. The young biker was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked up at Eli, who was watching him with those big, hopeful eyes. Ah, hell, Colt muttered. My parole officer's a jerk anyway. I'm in. Ryder felt something shift in the room, a commitment, a bond strengthening. They'd crossed a line together, and there was no going back. Thank you, Eli whispered. Thank you all so much. Doc Martinez finished his work and stepped back, wiping blood from his hands. He'll live, if infection doesn't set in. Keep him still, keep him hydrated, and pray. He looked at Ryder. Whatever trouble you people are in, I don't want to know. But that man's a fighter. He's got something to live for, he nodded toward Eli. As Doc Martinez left, Ryder gathered his crew close. All right, Iron Hawks. Here's how this works. Outside in the darkness, a police cruiser slowly drove past the warehouse, its spotlight sweeping the walls. The hunt was closing in. The morning news hit like a sledgehammer. Ryder sat in the warehouse office, staring at the television screen in disbelief. Daniel Ward's face filled the display, the same photo from his investigator badge, but now with a red banner beneath it, armed and dangerous. Escaped from custody last night during a routine transfer, the news anchor reported with practiced urgency. Daniel Ward, wanted for evidence tampering, fraud, and assaulting 2 officers, is considered extremely dangerous. Ward was being transported to county jail when he overpowered his guards and fled into the desert. "They're lying through their teeth," Ghost muttered from the doorway. The screen switched to a press conference. A stern-faced detective in his 50s stood at a podium, badges gleaming on his chest. The nameplate read, Detective Frank Holloway, Tucson PD. Ward has his 7-year-old son with him, Holloway announced, his voice heavy with fake concern. "We believe the child may be in danger. If anyone has information about Daniel Ward's whereabouts, please contact authorities immediately. We just want to bring this boy home safely." "That son of a bitch," Maria hissed. "They tried to kill that boy, and now they're using him as bait." Ryder's phone buzzed. A text from Reaper. "Checkpoints going up on every major highway. They're locking down the whole city." "They're moving fast," Ryder said, standing up. "We need to move faster." In the main garage, Daniel had regained consciousness. He lay on a cot they'd set up, his face pale but alert. Eli sat beside him, holding his hand. "You saw the news," Daniel said weakly when Ryder approached. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, they're painting you as a dangerous fugitive who kidnapped his own kid." Daniel's laugh was bitter and painful. "Of course they are. It's what they do best. Control the narrative." He tried to sit up and winced. "You need to get as far away from us as possible. Once they realize we're together, you'll all be targets." "Too late for that," Ryder replied. "We made our choice. Now we need to make a plan." "There is no plan," Daniel said. "You can't fight them. I tried for 3 years, and look where it got me." "Daddy, don't say that," Eli pleaded. Before Ryder could respond, Bear rushed in from the lookout post. "We got company. 2 unmarked sedans just pulled up outside. They're not in uniform, but they scream cop." Everyone moved at once. Ghost grabbed his rifle from the locker. Maria positioned herself near the back exit. Diesel and Colt took flanking positions by the main door. "Daniel, Eli, back room, now," Ryder ordered. "Stay quiet no matter what you hear." Maria hustled them into the storage room and locked the door from the outside, pocketing the key. A loud knock echoed through the warehouse. Professional, authoritative, threatening. Ryder took a breath and opened the door. 2 men stood outside, both in their 40s, wearing cheap suits that couldn't quite hide the shoulder holsters underneath. The taller one had a weathered face and cold blue eyes. His partner was stockier, with a crew cut and a scar running along his jaw. "Morning," the tall one said, flashing a badge. "Detective Holloway, Tucson PD. This is Detective Brennan. Mind if we ask you folks a few questions?" So this was Holloway, the man from the press conference. Up close, Ryder could see the predator behind the professional mask. "What's this about?" Ryder kept his voice casual. "We're looking for a fugitive, Daniel Ward. You might have seen it on the news." Holloway's eyes scanned the warehouse interior. "We got a tip that someone matching his description was seen in this area last night. You and your crew wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" "We were on a charity run to Phoenix last night," Ryder lied smoothly. "Got back around 2 in the morning. Didn't see anyone." "A charity run," Brennan repeated, his tone dripping with skepticism. "How noble." "We like to give back to the community," Ryder replied, matching his sarcasm. Holloway smiled, but it never reached his eyes. "Mind if we take a look around? Just to be thorough. You got a warrant?" The smile vanished. "We're trying to rescue a child who may be in danger. I'd think you'd want to cooperate." "I'd think you'd follow the law," Ryder shot back. "No warrant, no entry. Constitutional rights apply to everyone, detective. Even bikers." Brennan's hand drifted toward his holster. "You're protecting a wanted criminal. That makes you accessories." "We're not protecting anyone," Ghost said from behind Ryder. "We're protecting our property rights." Big difference. Holloway studied them carefully, his gaze lingering on each face. Then he pulled out his phone and showed them a photo, a traffic camera image from last night showing 6 motorcycles on the highway, time-stamped around midnight. "That's you, isn't it? 6 bikes, heading east on Route 10, right around the area where Ward escaped. His voice hardened. What an interesting coincidence. Ryder's mind raced. They had them on camera near the bridge. Not proof, but enough to make them suspects. Thousands of bikes use that highway, Maria called out. Doesn't prove anything. Maybe not, Holloway agreed. But here's what I know. Daniel Ward is a dangerous man. He murdered a federal witness 3 years ago. That's why he's really on the run. And now he's got his kid with him, probably using the boy as a shield. He leaned closer. If you're hiding them, you're helping a killer. That makes you complicit in whatever he does next. That's bullshit and you know it, Ryder said quietly. Holloway's mask slipped for just a second, and Ryder saw the truth beneath. Cold calculation, no mercy, no morality. This was a man who'd killed before and would kill again without hesitation. Let's try this another way, Brennan said, stepping forward. We know Ward is wounded. He needs medical attention. We can help him. We just want to bring him in safely, get that boy back to his family. What family? Ghost asked sharply. His mother's dead. Ward's all he has. Brennan's eyes flickered, just for an instant, but Ryder caught it. The detective hadn't expected them to know that detail. It confirmed they'd done research on Daniel Ward. They knew exactly who they were dealing with. Friends, then, Brennan recovered. Foster care. Anywhere safe. Safe like under a bridge with a bullet in him? The words were out of Ryder's mouth before he could stop them. The silence that followed was deafening. Holloway's expression went cold as ice. So you do have him. Ryder realized his mistake too late. He'd revealed they knew about the bridge, about the shooting. But maybe that was okay. Maybe it was time to stop playing games. We don't have anyone, Ryder said carefully. But if we did, we sure as hell wouldn't hand them over to the cops who tried to execute them. Brennan's hand went to his gun. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth, Ryder replied. And you know it. Ward was investigating police corruption. He got too close to something big, and you shut him down. 3 years later, he's still alive, so you decided to finish the job. Holloway laughed, a sound completely devoid of humor. You've got quite an imagination. Maybe you should write fiction instead of harboring fugitives. Get off our property, Ghost said, raising his rifle slightly. Now, for a moment, Ryder thought they'd have a shootout right there. Brennan's hand tightened on his weapon. Holloway's eyes calculated odds, distances, angles of fire. Then Holloway smiled again. All right, we'll go. But this isn't over, he handed Ryder a business card. When Ward's kid ends up dead because you played hero, I want you to remember you had a chance to do the right thing. They turned and walked back to their sedans. But as Brennan opened his car door, a piece of paper fell from his jacket pocket, carried by the morning breeze. It fluttered across the pavement and landed near Diesel's boot. The detectives didn't notice. They climbed into their cars and drove away. Diesel picked up the paper and his face went white. Ryder, you need to see this. It was a printed email, marked confidential. The header read, Operation Clean Sweep, Priority Targets. And there, in black and white, were the orders. Daniel Ward, terminate on sight. No witnesses. No exceptions. Below that, a second line, child, terminate. Cannot risk testimony. At the bottom, a signature, Captain Raymond Voss, Special Operations Division. They were never here to rescue anyone, Maria whispered. They came to scope us out, see if we had Ward, and plan their next move. Ryder's blood ran cold as the full scope of what they were facing became clear. This wasn't just a few corrupt cops. This was an organized hit squad with official sanction. They weren't up against criminals wearing badges. They were up against the entire system. And that system wanted Daniel and Eli Ward dead, no matter who got in the way. Ryder spread a map across the workbench, circling locations with a red marker. The printed email with the kill order sat beside it, a death warrant that made everything terrifyingly real. We can't stay here, he said, looking at his assembled crew. They'll be back with a full tactical team, probably tonight. We need to move Daniel and Eli somewhere they can't easily reach. Where? Diesel asked. They've got checkpoints on every highway. Airports watched. Bus stations too. Ryder tapped a location in the mountains north of Flagstaff. Reaper's old cabin. It's off-grid. No cell signal, 40 miles from the nearest town. We used to use it as a safe house back in the day. That's a 6-hour drive through hostile territory, Ghost pointed out. Every cop in Arizona is looking for them. Then we don't drive them. Ryder pulled out his phone and started scrolling through contacts. We use the network. Maria's eyes widened. You mean the old routes? Ryder, we haven't used those in years. Then it's time to reactivate them. The Iron Hawks hadn't always been legitimate. Years ago, they'd run a sophisticated underground network, moving people and goods across state lines through a web of trusted contacts. Truckers, mechanics, bar owners, ex-cons who owed them favors. When Ryder cleaned up the crew, they'd stopped using it. But the connections were still there, dormant, waiting. Over the next 2 hours, Ryder made calls. Coded conversations, careful wording, old phrases that meant something specific to those who knew. First call, Tommy Wrench Hernandez, a trucker who ran long-haul routes. Hey, Tommy, remember that thing you said you owed me for? I'm calling it in. I need a package delivered north. Discreet. Yeah, today? Thanks, brother. Second call, Sarah Jennings, who owned a body shop in Mesa. Sarah, it's Ryder. I need 2 vehicles, unmarked, clean plates, untraceable. By noon. You're a lifesaver. Third call, Marcus Preacher Johnson, an ex-con who ran a homeless shelter. Preacher, I need a favor. Can you house 2 visitors for a few hours? No questions, no records. God bless you too, brother. By the time he finished, they had a route mapped out. Not one journey, but 6 separate legs, using different vehicles and drivers, moving Daniel and Eli like pieces on a chessboard, always one step ahead. This is actually brilliant, Ghost admitted, studying the plan. They're looking for bikes or a single vehicle. We'll fragment the trail, make it impossible to track. Daniel Ward, who'd been listening from his cot, struggled to sit up. You're putting all these people at risk for us. These people owe us, Ryder said. And they hate corrupt cops as much as we do. Trust me, they'll help. But why? Daniel's voice cracked. You don't even know me. Why are you doing this? Ryder met his eyes. Because someone has to. At noon, Sarah arrived with 2 vehicles, a beat-up Honda Accord and a delivery van with Garcia's Plumbing painted on the side. Both had clean plates from junked vehicles, untraceable. They moved Daniel and Eli into the van, creating a hidden compartment behind false panels loaded with plumbing supplies. It wouldn't fool a thorough search, but it might get them through a casual checkpoint. First stop is Preacher's shelter, Ryder explained to Daniel. You'll stay there 2 hours. Then Tommy's picking you up in his rig, hiding you in a furniture shipment headed north. After that, we're getting you to safety, Maria finished. Just trust the process. Eli clung to his father, terrified. Where are you going? Aren't you coming with us? We can't, Ryder said gently. If they see us with you, it'll give you away. But I promise, people we trust will keep you safe every step of the way. Diesel took the wheel of the van, with Colt as his passenger. They'd do the first leg, then hand off. Ryder watched them pull out, his stomach tight with worry. Now what? Bear asked. Now we make noise, Ryder said. We draw attention away from them. Ghost, Maria, saddle up. We're going for a very visible ride through downtown Tucson. While the Iron Hawks made a spectacle of themselves cruising through the city, making sure every cop saw them without Daniel or Eli, the Underground Railroad activated. First handoff went smoothly. Diesel and Colt got Daniel and Eli to Preacher's shelter without incident. But as they turned back, Colt spotted it. Drone, he muttered, pointing at the sky. Small one, police surveillance. They're using tech now, Diesel said grimly. This just got harder. At the shelter, Preacher fed Daniel and Eli, gave them clean clothes, and kept them in a basement room where no windows meant no aerial surveillance. When Tommy's 18-wheeler pulled up 2 hours later, they moved fast, Daniel limping but mobile, Eli holding his hand tight. Tommy had created a clever hiding spot, a hollowed-out section of a furniture delivery with breathing holes and padding. It ain't comfortable, Tommy said, but it's safe. Just stay quiet for 3 hours, and I'll get you past the checkpoints. As the truck rumbled north on Interstate 17, Daniel held Eli close in the darkness. His wound ached, but Doc Martinez's work was holding. He could feel infection trying to set in, fever making his thoughts fuzzy, but he forced himself to stay alert. Daddy, Eli whispered. Are we going to be okay? Yeah, buddy. We're going to be okay. Those bikers. Why are they helping us? Daniel didn't have a good answer. In his experience, people looked out for themselves. That's what 3 years of running had taught him. Trust no one. Expect betrayal. Stay hidden. Yet these strangers had risked everything. The truck slowed. Daniel heard voices outside. Checkpoint. Afternoon, officer. Tommy's voice carried through the walls. Just furniture delivery to Flagstaff. Pop the back. Daniel's heart hammered. Eli squeezed his hand so tight it hurt. They heard footsteps on the truck bed, something being moved. Then silence. All right, you're clear. Safe travels. The truck rolled forward. Daniel let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. 3 hours later, they transferred again, this time to a local plumber's van, driven by Sarah's cousin, who asked no questions. Then to a rental car driven by a woman named Rita who'd lost her son to police violence and wanted to help anyone fighting back. Finally, after 8 hours of movement, they reached a small roadside diner where Ryder was waiting on his bike, alone. Last leg, he told Daniel. I'm taking you to the cabin myself. They rode in Rita's car, Ryder following on his Harley, up winding mountain roads as the sun set. No checkpoints this far out, no police presence, just endless forest. When they finally reached the cabin, Daniel collapsed onto a couch, his strength spent. Ryder built a fire while Eli explored the small space, marveling at being somewhere that felt safe. Later, as Eli slept, Daniel and Ryder sat by the fire. You said you didn't run, Ryder prompted. But 3 years ago, you disappeared. Daniel stared into the flames. I had them. All of them. Names, bank accounts, evidence of millions in laundered money. I was ready to present it to the grand jury. He paused. Then my wife, Claire, was killed in a hit-and-run. They said it was an accident, but I knew. It was a warning. Jesus, Ryder breathed. I had a choice. Continue the investigation and lose Eli too, or run and keep him alive. Daniel's voice broke. So I ran. I buried the evidence, grabbed my son, and we've been hiding ever since. 3 years of cheap motels, fake names, always looking over our shoulders. Why'd they come after you now? Daniel pulled a small USB drive from his pocket. Because I couldn't let it go. I've been quietly gathering new evidence, building the case again. Somehow they found out. That's why they came to kill us. Ryder stared at the USB drive. That's it. That's the evidence. Everything. Names, transactions, communications, photographs. Enough to put away 20 corrupt cops and expose the whole network. Daniel handed it to Ryder. If something happens to me, this has to get out. Promise me. Ryder closed his fist around the drive. Nothing's going to happen to you. We're going to expose these bastards together. Outside, neither of them saw the headlights in the distance, slowly approaching. Or the second drone, circling high above the trees. They'd been tracked. And an ambush was coming. Ryder woke to the sound of his phone buzzing. 3 a.m. Ghost's name flashed on the screen. We've got a problem, Ghost said without preamble. Rita's dead. Ryder sat bolt upright. What? Found in her apartment an hour ago. Single gunshot to the head, made to look like suicide. But Rita didn't own a gun, Ryder. They killed her. The blood drained from Ryder's face. Rita had been the last link in their chain, the one who'd driven Daniel and Eli to the meeting point. If they'd gotten to her. They're coming, Ryder said. They tortured her for information. She would have told them everything. Get out of there. Now, Ryder didn't waste time. He shook Daniel awake. We're leaving. 2 minutes. What's wrong? Daniel asked groggily, fever making his movements sluggish. We've been compromised. Ryder went to wake Eli, keeping his voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through him. Hey, buddy. Time to go. They stumbled out into the cold mountain night. Ryder had brought Daniel's car, the Honda that Sarah had provided, and parked it behind the cabin. They threw their few belongings inside. Where are we going? Daniel asked, climbing into the passenger seat with a wince. Away from here, Ryder started the engine. The others are meeting us at the base of the mountain. Then we regroup. The mountain road twisted like a serpent, barely 2 lanes wide, with steep drops on one side and rock face on the other. Ryder drove fast but carefully, his headlights cutting through the darkness. Eli sat in the back, clutching his father's jacket, eyes wide with fear. They'd made it 5 miles when Ryder saw the lights. Not behind them. Ahead. A convoy of vehicles blocking the road. 3 police SUVs positioned in a V formation, their light bars creating a strobing nightmare of red and blue. Armed officers crouched behind the vehicles, weapons raised. Shit. Ryder slammed the brakes. But before he could reverse, headlights appeared behind them too. They were boxed in. Out of the vehicle, a voice boomed through a megaphone. Hands where we can see them. Ryder recognized the voice. Detective Holloway. What do we do? Daniel asked, his hand instinctively moving to shield Eli. Ryder's mind raced. They were trapped on a narrow mountain road with armed cops on both sides. Surrendering meant death. He'd seen that kill order. But fighting meant the same thing. Then he heard it. The rumble of motorcycles. 5 bikes roared up the mountain behind the police vehicles, their engines screaming. Ghost, Maria, Diesel, Bear, and Colt, the entire Ironhawks crew. Ryder. Ghost's voice crackled through the radio. Get ready to move. What happened next unfolded in seconds. Ghost threw something. A smoke bomb that exploded against the lead police SUV, engulfing it in thick, gray smoke. The officers behind it cursed, visibility dropping to 0. Maria and Diesel swerved around the confused cops, weaving between vehicles with the skill of riders who'd spent their lives on 2 wheels. Now, Ghost shouted. Ryder floored the Honda. The car lurched forward, straight toward the smoke cloud. He couldn't see anything, just gray fog and flashing lights. But he trusted his instincts, threading the needle between the police vehicles. Gunfire erupted. Bullets punched through the Honda's rear windshield. Eli screamed. Daniel threw himself over the boy, covering him with his body. Stay down, Ryder shouted, ducking low while keeping his hands on the wheel. They burst through the smoke cloud. The road ahead was clear, for now. Behind them, the Iron Hawks weren't so lucky. The police had recovered from the smoke bomb and were in pursuit, their vehicles far more powerful than the bikes. Split up. Ryder heard Ghost command through the radio. Draw them away from Ryder. The 5 motorcycles peeled off in different directions, Maria and Bear taking a side trail, Diesel and Colt continuing down the main road. Ghost stayed behind Ryder, providing cover. A police SUV rammed into Ghost's bike. He fought for control, the motorcycle wobbling dangerously, then managed to right himself. But Ryder saw blood on Ghost's arm. He'd been hit. Ghost. You okay? Fine. Keep moving. They flew down the mountain road at suicidal speeds. Ryder took turns that would have terrified him in daylight, let alone at night with a wounded man and terrified child in the car. The police stayed close, their more powerful engines gaining ground. Another burst of gunfire. The Honda's passenger mirror exploded. Daniel grunted. He'd been grazed across the shoulder. Daniel. I'm okay. Focus on driving. They were approaching the base of the mountain when Ryder saw the second roadblock. More vehicles, more guns. They'd coordinated this perfectly. There was no way through. Ryder. It was Diesel's voice on the radio. The old mining tunnel. Quarter-mile ahead on your right. The mining tunnel. Ryder had forgotten about it. An abandoned service tunnel that ran under the mountain, built decades ago for maintenance access. The entrance was overgrown and supposedly sealed, but if it was still open. He saw the turnoff, barely visible through the trees. Without hesitating, Ryder yanked the wheel hard right. The Honda skidded off the paved road onto a dirt trail, branches scraping the sides. Behind him, Ghost followed. So did 1 police SUV. The tunnel entrance loomed ahead, a dark mouth in the rock face, partially collapsed but with just enough space for a vehicle. Maybe. Hold on, Ryder shouted. The Honda plunged into darkness. Ryder switched on the high beams, revealing a narrow tunnel barely wide enough for the car. The ceiling scraped the roof. Rocks jutted from the walls. Behind them, the police SUV tried to follow and got stuck. Its wider frame wedged between the tunnel walls. Officers poured out, running after them on foot, but Ryder was already accelerating through the tunnel. Ghost made it through on his bike, though Ryder heard him curse as his handlebars scraped rock. The tunnel seemed endless. Then, ahead light. An exit. They burst out the other side into a ravine. The Honda's suspension screamed as it hit the uneven ground, but held. Ghost's bike landed hard, and this time he went down, the motorcycle skidding across dirt and rocks. Ryder slammed on the brakes and jumped out. Ghost was getting up, limping badly, blood soaking through his jacket from multiple wounds. His bike was totaled. "Get in," Ryder shouted. Behind them, police officers emerged from the tunnel on foot, weapons raised. Ghost stumbled toward the Honda. Gunfire kicked up dirt at their feet. Ryder fired back with his pistol, not to hit, just to make them take cover, then helped Ghost into the back seat with Eli. A bullet shattered the rear window completely. Another punched through the trunk. Ryder drove, the Honda protesting every moment but still moving. They raced across the ravine, found a service road, and merged back onto civilization. Police sirens wailed in the distance, but they'd created enough chaos that no one knew exactly where they were anymore. The coordinated ambush had become a scattered mess. Ryder's radio crackled. "Ryder, this is Maria. We made it out. Diesel and Colt are hit, but alive. We're going dark, splitting up. Meet at the fallback point." The fallback point, a junkyard in New Mexico, across state lines, owned by another old contact. "Copy that," Ryder replied, his voice shaking with adrenaline. "See you there." In the back seat, Ghost was pressing his jacket against his wounds while Eli held pressure on another cut. Daniel, despite his own injuries, was helping. "That was too close," Ghost said through gritted teeth. "How'd they find us?" Daniel asked. "How'd they know about the cabin?" Ryder's jaw clenched. "Rita. They got to her, made her talk before they killed her. Then they know about your whole network," Daniel said quietly. "Everyone who helped us is in danger." The weight of that realization settled over them. By trying to save Daniel and Eli, they'd put dozens of people at risk. Good people who'd only wanted to help. But there was no going back now. "We end this," Ryder said, his voice hard as iron. "We get that evidence out, expose these bastards, and finish what you started 3 years ago." Daniel pulled the USB drive from his pocket and held it up. "Then let's give them hell." As they drove through the pre-dawn darkness toward New Mexico, none of them noticed the small tracking device attached to the Honda's undercarriage, placed there during the chaos of the tunnel escape. The hunters weren't done yet, and the prey was leading them exactly where they wanted to go. Section 7. The Truth Unleashed. The junkyard sat on the outskirts of Albuquerque, a graveyard of rusted cars and broken dreams. Ryder pulled the battered Honda through the gates just as dawn broke over the desert. The crew was already there, Diesel nursing a shoulder wound, Colt with his arm in a makeshift sling, Maria tending to their injuries. "You look like hell," Maria said when she saw Ghost. "Feel worse," Ghost replied, limping out of the car. The junkyard owner, a grizzled man named Sal, had set up a workspace in an old shipping container, a laptop, generator, and satellite internet connection. Not sophisticated, but functional. "This'll work," Daniel said, though his face was gray with fever. The wound was infected despite Doc Martinez's best efforts. He was running out of time. Ryder helped him into the container while Eli stayed close, fear radiating from the boy. They'd been running for over 24 hours straight. Everyone was exhausted, wounded, and afraid. "All right," Daniel said, sitting heavily in front of the laptop. "Let's finish this." He inserted the USB drive. The screen filled with folders, hundreds of documents, spreadsheets, photographs, audio recordings. 3 years of evidence, meticulously gathered. "How long will the upload take?" Ghost asked. "To properly distribute it? Maybe an hour. I'll send it to every major news outlet simultaneously. New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, BBC, plus local Arizona papers. I'll also upload it to WikiLeaks, encrypted file-sharing sites, and international servers. By the time they try to shut it down, it'll be everywhere." "Do it," Ryder said. Daniel's fingers flew across the keyboard. Despite his weakness, this was what he was trained for: financial investigations, digital evidence, exposing corruption. He'd been forced to run, but he'd never stopped being an investigator. "First batch uploading," he announced. "New York Times, Washington Post. Sent. Now the wire services." "Wait." Diesel was at the container entrance, his face pale. "Guys, we have a problem." He held up a small black device, still blinking with a red LED. "GPS tracker. Found it under the Honda when I was checking for damage." The container went silent except for the hum of the laptop fan. "How long has it been there?" Ryder demanded. Must have been placed during the tunnel ambush. When we stopped to help Ghost, Diesel crushed the device under his boot, but the damage was done. They know exactly where we are. Maria rushed to the window. In the distance, dust clouds rose from the desert road. Vehicles. Multiple vehicles. 10 minutes, maybe less, she reported. We need to move, Colt said, panic in his voice. No. Daniel didn't look up from the laptop, his fingers still typing. We stay? We finish this. Daniel, they'll kill us all, Ghost said. Then I die uploading the truth. Daniel's voice was calm, resolved. But this evidence gets out. That's all that matters. Ryder looked at his crew, wounded, exhausted, scared. They'd already risked everything. He couldn't ask them to die for this. Everyone out, Ryder ordered. Take the bikes, scatter. I'll stay with Daniel. Like hell, Maria said. We're Iron Hawks. We don't abandon family. She's right, Ghost added, checking his pistol. We ride together. Diesel chambered a round in his shotgun. Till the end. Even Colt, young and terrified, nodded. I'm not running anymore. Ryder felt his throat tighten with emotion. You're all crazy, you know that. Learn from the best, Maria said with a grim smile. They took defensive positions around the container. Sal provided extra weapons from his considerable collection. This wasn't his first time helping people in trouble. 40% uploaded, Daniel reported, sweat beading on his forehead. Come on, come on. The approaching vehicles became visible. 5 SUVs, all black, no markings. Not regular police. This was the special operations team, the ones who did the dirty work. Eli, Daniel said without looking away from the screen. Come here, son. Eli hugged his father from behind. I'm scared, Daddy. I know. But no matter what happens, you remember this. We fought back. We didn't let them win. The truth is more powerful than all their guns. 60%, Daniel announced. They're stalling. The SUVs stopped 100 yards out. Doors opened. Armed men emerged. 8 of them, heavily armed, wearing tactical gear. Detective Holloway stepped out last, megaphone in hand. Daniel Ward, you're surrounded. Come out with your hands up. 70%, Daniel whispered. Almost there. We can end this peacefully. Holloway shouted. Nobody else has to die. Ryder stepped out of cover, his hands visible, but holding his pistol at his side. You mean nobody else has to be murdered? Ryder Thompson, you're making a mistake protecting a criminal. The only criminals here are you. Ryder shouted back. We know about the money laundering. We know you tried to execute Ward and his son. It's over, Holloway. A long silence. Then Holloway's voice, cold and hard. Then you all die. The tactical team raised their weapons. 85%, Daniel said. 20 seconds. Time seemed to slow. Ryder saw fingers tightening on triggers. Heard Maria's breath beside him. Felt the weight of his pistol. Then, sirens. Different sirens. Federal sirens. A convoy of vehicles roared into the junkyard from the opposite direction. FBI tactical vans, marked units, agents and windbreakers. They formed a barrier between the Iron Hawks and Holloway's team. A woman stepped out, mid-40s, FBI credentials held high. Special Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI Public Corruption Unit. Everyone lower your weapons. Now. Holloway's team hesitated. I said now. Torres commanded. You're all under investigation. Weapons down, or you'll be arrested for obstruction. 100%, Daniel said softly. It's done. It's uploaded. He slumped forward, unconscious. Daniel, Eli screamed. The standoff dissolved into chaos. Holloway tried to run, but FBI agents tackled him. His tactical team surrendered, realizing the game was over. More federal vehicles arrived. DEA, U.S. Marshals, state investigators who weren't compromised. Agent Torres approached Ryder carefully. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to need you to lower your weapon. Ryder did, his hands shaking. How did you? Your friend started uploading evidence 40 minutes ago. The moment our servers detected it, we mobilized. Torres looked at the shipping container where Maria was performing CPR on Daniel. That man just exposed one of the largest police corruption scandals in Arizona history. 23 officers involved, including a police captain. Millions in laundered drug money. Paramedics rushed in, taking over Daniel's care. They loaded him onto a stretcher while Eli held his hand, crying. He's critical, but stable, a paramedic reported. We need to get him to a hospital immediately. Federal facility, Torres ordered. Full protective custody for him and the boy. As they loaded Daniel into an ambulance, his eyes fluttered open. He found Ryder in the crowd. Thank you, he mouthed. Ryder nodded, unable to speak. Over the next hour, arrests happened across Arizona. Captain Raymond Voss was pulled from his home in handcuffs, shown on every news channel. Detective Brennan tried to flee and was caught at the Mexican border. 17 other officers surrendered when they realized the evidence was public. The Iron Hawk sat on the hoods of junked cars, bandaged and exhausted, watching it unfold on Sal's portable TV. We did it, Maria said, disbelief in her voice. We actually did it. Daniel did it, Ryder corrected. We just kept him alive long enough. Agent Torres approached them one last time. You're all going to need to give statements. And technically, you broke about 40 laws helping Ward evade custody. Are we under arrest? Ghost asked. Torres looked at them. This ragged group of bikers who'd risked everything to protect an innocent man. The prosecutors will decide. But between you and me, I'll be recommending no charges. You saved lives and helped expose massive corruption, she smiled slightly. The system failed Daniel Ward. You didn't. As the sun rose fully over the desert, Ryder watched the last of the corrupt cops being led away in handcuffs. The safe house was gone. The warehouse was compromised. They'd lost Rita and nearly lost each other. But the truth was out. And sometimes that was enough. 3 weeks later, the world looked different. The Arizona corruption scandal dominated national headlines. 23 police officers arrested, including Captain Raymond Voss, who faced federal racketeering charges. Detective Holloway and Brennan were denied bail, facing murder conspiracy charges for Rita's death and the attempted execution of Daniel Ward and his son. The evidence Daniel had uploaded created a cascade effect. Federal investigators uncovered connections to drug cartels, money laundering operations in 5 states, and corruption that reached into state government. It was bigger than anyone had imagined. And at the center of it all was one man who'd refused to give up, and a motorcycle crew who'd refused to let him die. Ryder stood outside the federal medical facility in Phoenix, waiting. Beside him, the Iron Hawks gathered, Ghost's arm in a sling, Diesel still limping slightly, but all of them alive. All of them free. The prosecutors had declined to press charges, citing extraordinary circumstances and actions that served the public interest. The FBI had even returned their confiscated weapons with an apology. They were heroes now, though none of them felt like it. They still mourned Rita, still felt the weight of those who'd been hurt helping them. But they'd stopped something evil. That had to count for something. The facility doors opened. Daniel Ward emerged in a wheelchair, pushed by a nurse. He looked better, color in his face, the fever gone, though he was still weak from the infection and surgery. Beside him walked Eli, holding a small backpack. Behind them came Agent Torres and 2 U.S. Marshals. Gentlemen, Ms. Martinez, Torres greeted them. Mr. Ward has been medically cleared. The marshals are taking him and his son into witness protection today. Daniel stood from the wheelchair with effort, waving off the nurse's concern. He faced Ryder, and for a moment, neither man spoke. Then Daniel extended his hand. I don't know how to thank you. You gave us our lives back. Ryder shook his hand firmly. You gave yourself your life back. We just kept you breathing long enough to do it. Still, Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. What you did, what you all did, most people wouldn't have stopped. They would have kept writing. Then most people aren't worth knowing, Maria said softly. Daniel looked at each of them in turn. The prosecutors want me to testify at the trials. After that, Eli and I will disappear somewhere safe. New names, new lives. We'll finally be able to stop running. Good, Ghost said. You've earned some peace. Eli tugged on his father's sleeve, then walked over to Ryder. The boy looked up at him with those same brown eyes that had been filled with terror that first night on the highway. Now they held something different, gratitude, sadness, hope. I don't want to say goodbye, Eli whispered. Ryder knelt down to his level, feeling his throat tighten. He saw his own son's face again, remembered holding Michael's hand in the hospital, making promises he couldn't keep. But this time was different. This time the boy lived. This time, the story had a better ending. Hey, we're not saying goodbye, Ryder said. We're saying see you later. But I'll never see you again. The marshals said we can't contact anyone from before. Ryder pulled off his leather jacket and removed the patch from the shoulder, the Iron Hawk's emblem, a fierce bird with spread wings. He'd worn that patch for 10 years, through every ride, every fight, every moment that defined who the crew had become. He pressed it into Eli's small hands. You keep this, Ryder said, and whenever you look at it, you remember, you're not alone. Somewhere out there, you've got family, brothers and sisters who rode through hell for you. And if you ever need us, I mean really need us, you find a way to get word to the Iron Hawks. We'll come, no matter what. Eli clutched the patch to his chest, tears streaming down his face. Then he threw his arms around Ryder's neck. Thank you for believing me, Eli whispered. That first night, when I was in the road. Thank you for stopping. Ryder hugged him back, fighting his own tears. Thank you for being brave enough to ask for help. One by one, the other Iron Hawks said their goodbyes. Maria kissed Eli's forehead. Ghost gave him a silver dollar for luck. Diesel showed him a proper fist bump. Bear and Colt promised to teach him to ride a motorcycle someday, when he was older. Finally, the marshals indicated it was time to go. Daniel shook hands with each biker one final time, his grip firm despite his weakness. You rewrote our story, Daniel told them. The headline said I was a criminal. You proved I was innocent. That matters more than you know. You were never a criminal, Ryder said. You were a father protecting his son, and a good man fighting corruption. The world just forgot the difference. As Daniel and Eli climbed into the armored SUV with the marshals, Eli pressed his hand against the window. The Iron Hawks raised their hands in return, a silent salute, a promise kept. The SUV drove away, disappearing into federal protection and, eventually, into a new life somewhere far away. For a long moment, the crew stood in silence. Then Ryder turned to his brothers and sister. Come on, let's go home. They mounted their motorcycles, 6 bikes, 6 riders, one unbreakable bond. The engines roared to life, that familiar thunder that had carried them through the darkest nights. As they rode out of Phoenix, the sun was rising over the desert, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The road stretched ahead, open and endless. They'd lost their safe house, their warehouse, their anonymity. The Iron Hawks would forever be known as the biker crew who defied corrupt police to protect a whistleblower. Some would call them heroes. Others would still call them outlaws. But Ryder didn't care about labels anymore. They'd done what mattered. They'd protected the innocent. They'd fought for justice when the system failed. They'd been what the world needed them to be. And as they rode into that sunrise, battered, scarred, but victorious, Ryder felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Behind them, the headlines would continue. Trials would unfold. Corrupt officials would face justice. The system would begin to heal, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. And somewhere out there, a father and son were finally safe, carrying an Iron Hawks patch as proof that sometimes, when you cry for help in the darkness, someone stops. Someone cares. Someone fights. The crew disappeared into the morning light, 6 motorcycles riding in perfect formation, their engines singing a song of freedom and defiance. They hadn't just saved 2 lives. They'd proven that honor still existed in the world. And sometimes, that's all the victory you need.